for the rest of your life, what is that one TV show?
Workaholics.
Workaholics. I've never even heard of that. Hold on. Let me
It's
write this
it's
down.
not it's not like super famous or anything. It's decently well known, but it's not The Office or anything. But it's
So, okay,
hilarious.
but tell me, why have you picked this over The Office? Because I'm a big Office fan, and now I need to know.
It's actually like in a way it's similar to The Office because it's primarily based they're telemarketers, and
Yeah.
they work in like a obviously a telemarketing office, and they have this cubicle, and there's the three of them, and they're just like roommates, and
Okay.
they they basically the whole it's 7 seasons, and it's basically just them doing stupid stuff at
Okay.
this office, and it's so in a way it's kind of similar to The Office. I mean, a lot of the episodes don't have them at work, but they're maybe doing something at their house. They actually lived in the house that they lived in the show. They lived in it in real life for the first few seasons.
I'm gonna have to check it out
Um,
now. I'm gonna have to definitely check this show out.
yeah,
All right.
you would
All
like
right.
it, man. It's so funny.
Okay, okay. For those of you just joining in, sorry, we got to catch up a little bit before we start the show. But we are live
Yeah.
on YouTube, and today I have someone special. I have Devan Head, based out of Vancouver, who is a lifestyle photographer, does a lot of portrait work, does a lot of commercial product work, as well as nature photography and landscape photography. So we're going to talk about all of that. It's going to be a great conversation. Devan, how are you doing, especially in the midst of this COVID-19 situation? How are you holding up?
Doing well, actually. I'm as the days go on, I'm enjoying it being at home, and being able to kind of focus on the things that maybe I was getting behind on, or just not getting done and stuff like that. I'm enjoying that a little bit more. It's giving me time to catch up on things and hang out with my dogs and my girlfriend a bit more, and just kind of relax. And it's actually a nice. It's been nice in a sense so far, but
Nice.
we'll see how long it goes for, because it might get to a point where I'm like, yeah, okay, I want to do something now.
So, for those people that don't know or don't follow you, again, his social handle's right there, shot by Devon. How would you describe your photography, the type of work that you do?
I oh, I guess I like colors. I like to have nice, vibrant, bright colors. Every now and then I'll do some black and white, and get a really nice black and white's. It's different. You can get a really nice mood out of it. But for the
Right,
most
right.
part, I like colors, and everything with nice, bright, vibrant colors, and just kind of showing off the bright vibrancy of the world in my kind of through my eyes is how I try to do things, whether it's a portrait session or some of the landscape adventure type stuff that I do, even through film. I shoot a lot of color film,
Wow.
just because, yeah, I like getting those colors and just showing things how they look to me.
Wow. I mean, I'm looking at your feed, and those of you that are watching on YouTube, you would have seen that as well. There's a good mix of stuff, but really, a lot of these, to call them landscapes, it might be kind of simplifying it, right? Where you kind of show people within the landscape as well. And it's like this lifestyle photography, as the name would suggest, but really in a unique lens. How did you kind of come to that style? Like, I imagine that this wasn't something that you found out right away that you wanted to do. How did you get to creating your style and your look?
It kind of just came, I guess, organically over time. Like, I mean, if we were to compare things from when I first started doing, say, landscape or nature, or anything in nature, it's going to look completely different, obviously, than it does now. And I think over time, I just started kind of experimenting with maybe having somebody stand off in the distance, or having somebody stand, even close by, and being a part of the surroundings, and just kind of trying to add a bit to it, because we're all here on this planet, and we're a part of it. And I figure, when I'm there in nature, it's not just nature. I'm there, like a human is there. So I want to kind of add that element into it as often as I can, to just kind of show us
Right.
coexisting, I guess, with nature. Whether it's, yeah, somebody way off in the distance, or even just a close up portrait of somebody in nature. I like to kind of have that implemented in there as often as I can,
That's great, and
where it
you
works.
know, that's the
But
thing is that you explained it so much better than me, and you know, that's what you instantly see. You know, even though I didn't have the words for it, but it's about placing the human within the landscape and telling a story in that way.
thank you. Yeah. I've been doing it a little bit recently where I have, like, say, a person kind of closer up, but they're blurry and the landscape is in focus. I've
Interesting.
been kind of experimenting with some shots like that. I haven't posted anything yet. I literally just started doing it like last week. I did a couple. There's a cool trail near my house. So, but other than that, I mostly, yeah, just do what you see on the feed
Yeah.
as far as having people in the shots. But I'm glad you like it, man. It's fun. I like
No,
doing
it's
that.
amazing. I've been following your work for a while now, and you know, one of the things I instantly look at is that you know, I wonder. I started to deconstruct and work backwards, and I think about, you know, how much planning went into this, and how much of this was, you know, spontaneous. So when you look at this, especially because there's natural light involved, and obviously you're going to places that maybe there's other people around, how much planning goes into some of these shots, and you know, how much of them are difficult to execute versus others?
Yeah, it depends on the shot, I guess. Some of it I'll know ahead of time, like, okay, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna set up here, this is what I'm gonna bring with me to get this shot, and I kind of have a specific idea in mind. For example, the moon shot that I just my most recent post, I did the supermoon the other day, and that
Right.
one we went to that spot specifically because I wanted to get the shot of the moon coming up behind the city, with the cityscape in the shot, and kind of planned that out in that way. And I knew that whether the sky was cloudy or whatever,
Wow.
like, I was just gonna kind of wing it and just see what happens, and it worked out really well. But then there's other shots, like, if I go, say, to a waterfall or something, I'll bring maybe an ND filter. I'll obviously bring a tripod, and then I'll kind of just, once I get there, I'll figure out a nice vantage point and maybe use
Right.
some of
Right.
the other surroundings as a foreground, and kind of just set it up however I can based on what I've got. So yeah, it just depends on the shot. Really, it's more of I guess a lot of the time I find it's more of the winging it sort of side, especially if it's one where I have a person in the shot as well. It's more just we'll get there. I'll kind of look around. I'll take in the scene, and then I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe go kind of right there. That might look nice. And if I'm familiar with the area, I might have an idea, but
Yeah.
usually I'm not overly familiar. I try to kind of go to different places as often as I can, and explore and find new areas that I haven't shot before, or if I have, maybe in a different way.
That the moonshot is actually remarkable, but you know, I, as you would probably feel and maybe share the same sentiment, it's a little frustrating that Instagram is one of the few ways we can share this with a good amount of people. Because I look at that picture, I'm like, this as a print, you know, in your hands, what a amazing shot, you know, with the colors and the gradient there.
Thanks.
That's an amazing shot that you'd really want to see in person. I gotta ask you,
Yeah.
I imagine people that are gonna be watching this that are into lifestyle, that are into nature, you know, and them wanting to sort of cultivate their style. What do you look for when you get to a scene? So, you know, whether it's a waterfall, whether it's these beautiful trees, whatever it may be, what does your eye instantly kind of gravitate toward as you sort of compose this picture you're going after?
I think the first thing that I usually do is figure out what I want my subject to be,
Right.
as far as, like, the main piece of the photo, and then I figure out composition afterwards and figure out, okay, like, I'm gonna have to be, you know, here, and that's where the subject is, and then from there I go, okay, now how can I use the other surroundings as maybe some foreground, or sometimes in nature I'll shoot, like, through leaves to kind of have a bit of that foreground even closer to the lens, and just have, like, a nice blurry green or
Right,
something
right,
like
right,
that
right,
in
right.
front, and kind of just add some depth to it. But yeah, I think the first thing, especially if I'm in nature or in anything like that, is I figure out, first of all, like, okay, what's going to be the main focus of this photo. If it's something where it's like this scene in general just looks really cool, then it's a little bit easier because I can kind of just find a nice vantage point and set up and just base my shot off of whatever lighting we've got going on currently, with the
Right.
natural light. With the subject, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm gonna have to be here or here, and kind of just go with it. However, I find a lot of the time I'm just kind of winging it when I get to the spot and just figuring out, yeah, like how to go for it then.
Yeah, and I find that especially with a lot of photographers that, in their eyes they're winging it, but it really comes down to a lot of practice, a lot of reps, and you almost kind of cultivated this process. And I'm always interested in finding out that process, and it's really often sometimes difficult to sort of convey exactly what's going through your head, but it's almost like, I think of Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover when he starts, pretending to be the Rain Man and the numbers are in front of him. You go to this scene.
Yeah, that's me every time.
You just sort of see the scene kind of fall into place. But one of the things that kind of stuck out to me is that you look for that sort of key main subject. Like, what is that main focal point? And then from there, it's like you're layering, where you're just kind of thinking about, all right, what's the background, what's the foreground, what's the middle ground, and then can I add little elements to kind of heighten that storytelling in place? Is that kind of summarize it?
I would say that explains it obviously better than I did. That's perfect.
No.
And I think, I think that's exactly it. Is that you nailed it? Yeah.
Nice. So when you're going on this, is it a solo sport, or are you going with a couple people? Like, how do you sort of go about your creative process?
I really enjoy going out and shooting with friends, or if it's not a group, or I guess a couple of us. I often drag my girlfriend out. We'll go out to the forest somewhere, or go anywhere really, and I'll use her as a model to fill the space, like how we've talked about, or I'll just shoot like portraits of her. Right. But if it's not her, I usually try to go with at least like one or two friends and just share the experience. And it's nice to get out especially in nature. It's nice to just get outside though and spend some time with people you care about, and share a day, or share some couple hours and make some memories with some people that you enjoy being around. Right. We don't live for a super long time, so it's nice to kind of spend some time and do things that you enjoy with people you enjoy being around. So I usually don't go by myself, not because I don't like to or don't want to be by myself or anything. I just want to share that experience with people, so I try to usually go with someone.
Yeah, and that's kind of the idea that I got from looking at your work and seeing your story, and I liked hearing about it, because so often that people think photography needs to be a solo sport, and it absolutely doesn't have to be, right? I mean, whether you go as a team to work together, or whether you're going to capture other people, it can be this communal experience that you can share with others and really bond over, right? That's amazing. Now, when you're going out, I mean, listen, this wouldn't be Henry's Live if I didn't talk about gear. I got to ask you, what's sort of the kit that you travel with? What's your go-to equipment?
Right now, it's the Z7, the Nikon Z7. This guy right here. Okay. I love this. Before this one, I had the D810. I still do, but I mainly use my Z7 right now. I actually got the
D810 and the Z7. They're the high resolution cameras from Nikon, right? They shoot higher resolution. That's sort of their tentpole feature.
Yeah, the 810 I believe is 36 megapixels. Right. And the Z7 is 45. So that comes in handy when I do those landscape type shots, or the bigger sort of things, like, for example, with the moon, having all that nice detail, that resolution in there for if I do want to do a print. I've actually had a few people ask about that one for prints. Right, so stuff like that, it really helps to have a lot of that. I mean, obviously, I know you can image stack and do other things to get there, but it just helps to have that. And I love shooting with the Z7. It's been a dream. And I would say the main lens that I use for that kind of stuff is either the 17 to 35 2.8,
so nice
or it's so fun. I love it. Or the 24 to 70 2.8, the new one, the Z mount one. Nice. It's so nice. I love this one.
Super sharp as well. We got some time to play around with that. And that is a fantastic lens. I gotta ask you, so I love talking to people that use all different kinds of gear. You're the first guest on Henry's Live that's exclusively a Nikon shooter. Hey. So I gotta ask you. And look, he even has the yellow hat. The branding is on point, folks.
Yeah, got a rep.
Nikon, if you're watching, can you send this guy something? What's going on?
Hopefully Jay's on here.
Yeah, right. I gotta ask you, what is it about the Z7 that you love, that you enjoy, that you feel that allows you to capture your work as effectively as possible?
This might seem like something really maybe unexpected, but the grip. and the size.
Mm-hmm.
I love the just it in hand, and that was the main thing before with having the bigger DSLRs was doing a lot of the stuff that I do. It's not it doesn't make it impossible or anything, but it's not overly enjoyable when you've got something that's not only big physically, but it's quite heavy.
Yeah.
Especially once you get maybe that 17 to 35 on there, it's not a light setup by any means. And if I'm doing a hike or something outside where I have my bag on for a while and stuff like that, it definitely adds, it's a bit of stress on your back and everything
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And when you're carrying it, and then I find like the main reason for going to mirrorless was the size. Honestly, I love the size and the especially with this guy, like I said, the grip is just, I have bigger hands and I find that it's difficult to with certain other ones, the grips just didn't necessarily fit properly in my hand. And once I got this one in my hand, I was just stoked, and it's amazing. But obviously, it's a great camera as far as capabilities go and quality and resolution. But for me, the main thing was size and just how it felt in my hand. Because I mean, you could do similar work with pretty much any gear nowadays if you know what you're doing. But I just love how that feels. Plus, I knew Nikon, and I learned on Nikon, and
Right.
I have all the lenses and all that kind of stuff, and the loyalty lies there. So I figured I might as well stick
Listen,
with
I
it.
get to play with a ton of cameras. Obviously, us working at Henry's, and Nikon makes, I will argue, the most ergonomic cameras available. There's a few others out there, but when you hold a Z6, Z7, even their Z50, their mirrorless lineup, as they transition to mirrorless, they did not forget sort of the ergonomic, advantage, I guess you can call, that they could provide, where everyone was kind of trying to sandwich their cameras and get them as thin as possible and light as possible. Nikon really focused on, okay, let's make what we can thinner, but also let's not forget that this Nikon, that grip, that sort of signature grip with the red line going across of it, that's their sort of visual signature, but also their ergonomic signature, right? It's just so comfortable in the hand.
Yeah.
Outside of the resolution and the grip and the ergonomics, what else do you like about the Z7, the Z series?
I like the and like you said, like working at Henry's, we see a lot of different gear and whatnot. And this is not to put Nikon above anything else, but for me personally, I love the electronic viewfinder in the Nikon, in the Z7, Z6. I obviously, coming from DSLR, electronic viewfinder was something new for me. And after looking through all the options available, I found the viewfinder in this one is just, it's amazing. It's so clean, and it just looks amazing. I just love it. And that was one of the main things for me too. And it's a small detail, but it was something that I was just like, you know what, I love this. It's so nice, and it's just crisp, it's clean, it's clear, it's bright, it looks amazing.
But you obviously moved from DSLR to mirrorless, and this might seem obvious for us if we are in the photography space often and selling cameras and talking about cameras. But I still gotta ask you, and especially it might resonate with people that are still on DSLRs. But why did you make the switch from DSLR, the traditional camera styling, to this mirrorless camera system?
The main reason I would say is size. I was debating for probably 2 months on if I wanted to do go from the 810 up to the 850, or if I wanted to go to the Z7. And I debated with myself for so long because I couldn't decide, because they're both fantastic. And I decided, like, just size wise, it just makes more sense for me, and that way, like, I could have something a bit easier to move around with and be on hikes or travel with, or something like that, where it's a bit lighter, it's smaller, stuff like that. But that was kind of the main thing. Like, I have them both here side by side. This one's got a strap, so ignore that. But right away, like, you can see, it's just quite different.
It's a stark difference,
size, right?
Especially when it comes to
it's
the thickness of
massively
it and
different.
height.
Exactly. So it's that makes a big difference, especially when you're hiking or like walking around or traveling, even fitting stuff in your bag and whatnot. It helps a lot.
And now, one thing I appreciate with Nikon, and listen, I'm not currently a Nikon user. I used to shoot Nikon for years and years and years, and the D800 was the last one I was using with them. But their menu system is probably one of the easiest user-friendly menu systems of all the manufacturers. And listen, guys, I'm trying to be diplomatic here. I'm not saying, you should get one or the other. I'm trying to be fair here. But when it comes to the menu system, it's really easy to operate. What else about this camera or sort of the Nikon family do you appreciate that maybe most people on the market are not aware of?
What would I say? That's a good question. I don't know, because my straight up answer for it would be I like everything about it. So if I'm trying to think of like something specific, the menu system is nice, and it's been, at least for me, coming into photography, even just Nikon in general, not any camera specifically or anything, but coming into photography, when I first came into photography, knowing next to nothing, I found it very easy to kind of grasp and learn and get into it and run through the menu, like you said, and go through all the different options and kind of just figure out what I'm doing and everything. I found it really, really easy to go through it and nice and seamless, and as opposed to maybe with something else, because I do look into different cameras and look through their menu systems and look through different features and functions and all this kind of stuff. And I found, as far as like something just nice and straightforward, simple enough, and just to kind of get into it, it did the job, and I learned on it really easily.
Nice. Now, listen, I got to talk to you about film photography, because this is one of the things that during our earlier phone call, we kind of bonded over, and I'm gonna geek out over it with you. So, when did you? I got a two-part question. When did you get into film photography? And second is, why the hell did you get into film photography?
2017. I got into it. I had been curious about it up until then. Like I didn't know anything, like literally nothing. I knew that it wasn't digital, and that's all I knew. And I was in Vernon, where my parents live, and I can't remember how the conversation came up, but my dad had mentioned something about how he had an old film camera. He used to do, he used to work at a camera photo, I guess, like studio in Vancouver when he was about 20 in the 80s. So he's like, oh, I have like an old film camera here somewhere, and he dug it up, and it was actually this guy here. This Minolta, the Maxim 7000.
Look at that beauty.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And he dug that up, and he's like, here, like, I don't know if it still works. Like, let's see. And so I ran down to Walmart and grabbed a couple rolls and Googled how to load them, and then put them through. And then I was in Vernon for a few days, so I ran back down to London Drugs the next day and just dropped them off, and then just kind of waited. And as soon as I got those back, I just fell in love with film. It's just a different. Not only is it more, I guess, involved in the sense of literally going from picking out the film, loading it manually, usually setting everything up for each shot, taking more time as far as setting up the shots, because with digital you can just fire off 1,000 if you want and then get one good one. But with film, you only get 24, 36 if you're on 35 mil. If you're on 120 mil, 10, 15 shots. And you have to kind of make those worth it, because with film, like, each shot is costing you money, so you don't really, it's not like something where you can just fire off a bunch. So you kind of take more time, and you really compose stuff and sit down and really feel like you're involved in really building something. And that was kind of when I first got those first rolls back, I just fell in love with it. When I saw the texture and just the feeling of the film photos, it just gave me a different feeling than looking at digital work. Digital shooting is amazing. I love it. You can do so much stuff that you obviously can't do with film, but film just has that different kind of texture and that feel to it that It's just I don't think it's gonna be matched ever for me. It's
So
something
let
that
me play
I
devil's advocate here. Let me play devil's advocate here because you know I shoot film, you know I shoot a ton of rolls, but
yeah,
for
yeah,
those people that will say, "Listen, Devin, you can get a filter, you can get a preset, you can just get that look, and why would you spend all this money on film? Like why and the process of waiting when you can just take your digital images and put like a Visco filter or a Lightroom preset on it."
yeah, yeah. It's for me at least. It's more about. It's not all about the look with say the grain or the colors.
Yeah,
It's about the process, and I don't develop my own stuff yet. I would love to learn, and I think that's on my to-do list for while we're at home.
yeah.
But as far as like even the waiting period or something like that, if you if you've ever waited to open your presents on Christmas, it's a similar feel. you
Yeah.
you sit there, you take the film in, and then especially if it's something you know you're stoked on, like you shot a specific project on it, or you went on a trip or something and you came back and you getting all your film developed, you're just sitting there waiting, and then as soon as you get it and you look through those prints or the scans or the whatever you look through, and you just kind of review those for the first time, it's just I don't even. It's hard to explain. It's a different feeling, and you
Yeah,
know because
yeah.
you sat there and you loaded the camera, and you picked the film, you loaded the camera, you carefully did each of those shots, you get them back, and you look at them, and you just know like you made each one of these one by one, rather than
Right.
something with digital where, like I said, you could just fire off a bunch, which is cool. I love shooting digital, but
Yeah.
like I said, it's a different process, and I think it's a process that I fell
Yeah.
in love with.
Now I try to get only the gear that I need, and listen, even though I have 5 different cameras, they all serve a different purpose. But you, sir, you have 12 film cameras. You're a collector, not me, but you are
Yeah.
definitely a collector. So what are your? I mean, let's not. We don't have time to go through all 12, but what are your sort of main drivers when it comes to film photography? Which cameras do you enjoy using the most?
Yeah. I I just got this recently. This is the Mamiya 645.
Oh my goodness.
This is the first. This is so nice. This is the first version of this one, the M645. Right now, I just have the 80 mil 2.8 lens on it. But as far as medium format goes, I love this. I got it
Okay.
recently. I've only put probably like 4 or 5 rolls through it so far, but it's amazing. It's so much fun to use. The resolution on the medium format rolls and scans of it is just amazing. I really like this. It's been a lot of fun so far. And for 35, I would say it's probably this guy here is the main one, the Voigtlander Beta R.
Okay. Okay.
Right now there's a 35 mil lens on it. It's a rangefinder.
My favorite focal length, and that's a rangefinder camera, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, 35. I have a 75 for it too. These lenses are so beautiful. There's something about these. They're all metal build. Even the lens hood is
Is that
like
the Voigtlander
metal.
75 as well?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay.
and it's just amazing. They're so nice. That's probably my main one as far as 35 goes. I have a lot of like old obscure film cameras. That's kind
Yeah.
of the thing that I like to go for is just kind of weird old stuff. Like
Yeah.
this guy, I've actually shot with this before.
What is
This is a lot of
that?
fun.
What is
This is
that?
called this is called a Brownie. It's Kodak.
Oh my
This one was made in I think Toronto. Back when did this come out? I
It
think it
looks like
was
a
the
James
30s. This
Bond
20.
kind of gadget. It has a handle on it
Yeah,
and everything. What is? Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
It's got on the top a viewfinder there for when you're shooting like portrait orientation, and then if you're shooting
Wow.
landscape, it's got one here, so you can
Wow.
shoot that way. And it's a fixed shutter speed of like a 30th of a second,
Okay.
and it's like it's super strange, but it's really interesting to use. And that one, when it came out, it was intended to be the kind of like a point and shoot is now, but
Gotcha.
on the lower end as far as price goes.
Right. Right.
That
Right.
guy, I think, at the time in the 30s, I believe it was, maybe the 40s. It was like $2,
Right.
which, or
Right.
sorry,
Right.
$2 in now's money.
Ah.
So it was
Gotcha.
like
Gotcha.
nothing. Yeah,
Gotcha.
and so it's yeah, that one's really really fun. I'll do one more just because we're here.
I love this. I
I
love the show and tell, guys.
This
Oh
guy.
my god! So hold on, that thing folds up too.
Yeah, so it goes in
Oh, look at
like
that.
that. Just folds in, but yeah, it's pretty sweet. I shot with this before too. It's a lot of fun. They're really weird, and they're like uh, set shutter speed.
Yeah,
Um, so you got to kind of be a little careful with it, but they're
yeah.
fun. They're fun to use.
That's
We'll go one
amazing,
more
man.
because I want to show this.
That's amazing.
But this guy,
That is the
this is
Rolly Flex or
the roller cord. The roller cord. Yeah,
Roller Cord? Okay, yeah, yeah,
the Flex is a better version, I think, a more expensive one.
yeah, yeah.
But I love this. This is a
Top-down
lot of fun.
viewfinder, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Listen, guys, I'm just enjoying this, and you know what? What we're gonna do is because we do the 30 minutes on YouTube, we do the 30 minutes on Instagram. So for those of you that watch now, thank you so much for watching. But we're gonna go to Instagram and we're gonna do something different. I'm gonna switch up the topic right on the fly. We're just gonna talk about film photography on Instagram right now. Devin, is that okay with you?
Definitely, let's do it.
Awesome, man. Devin, listen, where can they find your more of your work? Before we go, how can people see more of your content, more of your work?
All of my social media is shot by Devan, shot by and then Devan, and my website is shotbydevan.com. So I tried to make it nice and easy and straightforward. So yeah, if you check it out and you enjoy it, reach out and say hi. I always love meeting new people and making new friends. So yeah.
Fantastic. I'm just loading up the website for everyone so they can see as well.
Cool.
But definitely go Shop by Devin on Instagram and Shop by Devin. That's your website as well. Thank you for keeping it easy for everyone. And for those of you watching, thank you so much. Again, we do this every weeknight, 6 o'clock, Monday to Friday. Tomorrow's a holiday, so we're going to take the day off tomorrow. But we'll be back on Monday. Go to blog.henrys.com to see the full schedule. Devin, thank you so much. And we're going to go geek out over film photography on Instagram.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sweet.